I stared at my phone, watching the family group chat explode with excited messages. My sister Amanda had just announced their plans to use my little cabin in the woods for a family getaway. The cabin they thought was just a modest mountain retreat I'd bought with my mediocre software developer salary. James can sleep in the loft. Mom typed enthusiastically. I call the master bedroom. Amanda chimed in. We'll bring the good wine, Dad added. I leaned back in my leather chair gazing out from my penthouse office at the mountain range in the distance. Through my security feeds, I could see the final touches being added to what was now the Crown Valley Luxury Resort and Spa, a 200-acre property, with the original cabin serving as the centerpiece of a $300 million development. Don't forget to stock up the fridge, little brother. Amanda added to the chat. We know you're hardly ever there anyway. Little did they know I was there every week, overseeing the construction of what would become the most exclusive mountain resort in 3 states. The humble cabin they remembered from 2 years ago now anchored a sprawling complex of luxury suites, a world-class spa, and 5-star restaurants. I switched camera views on my tablet, watching as workers installed the last of the smart home systems in the main lodge. The grand opening was scheduled for next month, but everything was essentially ready now. I had planned to tell my family eventually, but they'd made that decision for me with their presumptuous text messages. 3 years ago, when I bought the initial property, my family had nothing but criticism. A cabin? In the middle of nowhere. Dad had scoffed. What a waste of money. You could have put that down payment toward a real house in the city, Mom had added. Classic Michael, Amanda had smirked. Always making weird decisions. I remembered those comments clearly as I opened my laptop and pulled up the resort's financials. The weird decision had turned into a $300 million property development, funded by the success of my software company. Another venture my family had dismissed as a hobby years ago. My phone buzzed again. This time it was James, my brother-in-law. Hey man, bringing the kids' bikes, that dirt road up to your place is still okay for cars, right? I smiled, thinking about the new paved switchback road that now led to the resort's main entrance. The old dirt road had been replaced months ago, along with everything else. Sure, James. The road's fine, I replied, keeping up appearances for just a little longer. My assistant Sarah knocked on my office door. Mr. Anderson, the resort manager needs your final approval on the staff uniforms, and the sommelier has finished stocking the wine cellar. Thanks, Sarah. Tell them I'll be up there tomorrow morning for the final inspection. She nodded and left, closing the door quietly behind her. I turned back to my security feeds, switching to the camera that showed the original cabin. It had been completely renovated, transformed into the resort's premium suite while maintaining its rustic exterior charm. The interior now featured handcrafted furniture, a state-of-the-art kitchen, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the valley. My family had no idea that their little getaway was about to turn into something very different. The timing was almost poetic. They had chosen the exact weekend I had scheduled for the soft opening with a select group of investors and media. Another text from Amanda. Michael, we invited the Petersons too. Hope that's okay. Their kids can use your old room. The Petersons, our neighbors from childhood. The same people who had joined my family in mocking my decision to leave my stable corporate job to start my own company. I remembered Mrs. Peterson's condescending tone. Such a shame to waste your education on a risky startup. That risky startup had grown into Summit Technologies, now valued at $2.1 billion. But I had kept that success quiet, working behind the scenes while my family continued to treat me like their struggling younger sibling. I opened my calendar and sent a quick message to my events team. Add the Anderson family to the VIP list for Saturday's soft opening. Full access passes. Then I typed a reply to the family chat. Sounds great. See you all there. My phone immediately lit up with surprised responses. You're actually coming. Mom wrote, don't you have to work? Amanda added. First time for everything. Dad chimed in. If they only knew how much work I'd actually been doing up here. The resort wasn't just a luxury getaway, it was a technological showcase. Every aspect was controlled by Summit Technologies' latest smart systems, from the automated room service to the predictive maintenance protocols. I spent the next hour reviewing the final security protocols with my team. The resort's AI system could track every guest's location, preferences, and needs in real time. It was the perfect blend of luxury and innovation. Exactly what I had envisioned when I'd first looked at that worthless piece of mountain property. As evening approached, I decided to head up to the resort for a final personal inspection. My driver, Thomas, was already waiting with the car when I reached the lobby. The usual route, Mr. Anderson. Yes, but let's stop at the viewpoint. I want to see the exterior lighting tests. The drive up the mountain took exactly 23 minutes on the new road. I'd engineered it that way. As we rounded the final bend, the resort came into view, its lights just beginning to twinkle in the dusk. The main lodge rose from the mountainside like a modern castle, all glass and sustainable materials, with the original cabin visible at its heart. We stopped at the viewpoint, and I got out to take in the scene. From here you could see the entire valley, with the resort crowning the landscape like a jewel. The lighting design was perfect, subtle yet impressive, highlighting the architecture without overwhelming the natural beauty of the surroundings. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a series of messages from my family planning their arrival. We'll head up around 10 a.m. Mom wrote, bringing breakfast supplies. Amanda added, don't forget the keys are under the mat. James reminded everyone. Little did they know there hadn't been a key under any mat for months. The entire resort operated on a biometric security system, with smartphone access as backup. Their arrival would be interesting. Back in the car, I called Sarah to finalize the weekend arrangements. Is everything set for Saturday? Yes, Mr. Anderson. The staff is fully briefed, and we've prepared the main suite for your family's arrival. Should I inform them about the change in accommodations? No need, I'll handle that personally. I could almost hear her trying not to smile. Very well, sir. The media team will arrive at 9 a.m. for the pre-opening coverage. Would you like me to reschedule them? No, leave them as planned. My family's timing is actually perfect. I ended the call and watched through the car window as we approached the resort's main entrance. The grand driveway curved elegantly through mature pine trees, leading to a stunning porte-cochere made of glass and sustainable timber. 2 uniformed valets stood ready, despite the fact that we weren't officially open yet. I'd insisted on running everything as if we were fully operational for the past week, a full dress rehearsal for every staff member. As I stepped out of the car, the resort's manager, David Pierce, approached with a tablet in hand. Good evening, Mr. Anderson. Would you like to do the final walkthrough now? Yes, let's start with the original cabin area. My family will be arriving there first on Saturday. We walked through the transformed building that my family still thought of as my modest cabin. The original structure had been preserved and enhanced, its rustic charm amplified by modern luxury. The old fireplace now featured a handcrafted copper hood, and the rough-hewn beams had been restored to a warm glow. The biometric systems are all online, David explained, demonstrating with his phone. When your family arrives, they'll find their old key won't work, and there's no mat to look under anymore. I smiled, imagining the scene. They'll probably call me in a panic. That's when I want them escorted to the main lobby. Make sure all the staff knows to treat them with full VIP protocol, but don't reveal anything about my role here until I arrive. Understood, sir. Should we prepare the private dining room for Saturday evening? Yes, and make sure the chef knows about Mom's allergies. I want everything to be perfect. We continued our inspection through the rest of the resort. Every detail had been carefully considered, from the heated floors in the spa to the custom-built wine cellar. The grand lobby featured a 3-story glass wall overlooking the valley, with a massive fireplace and comfortable seating areas scattered throughout. The media packets are ready, David mentioned as we finished our tour. We've highlighted the sustainable design elements and the integration of Summit Technologies systems. The Forbes reporter seemed particularly interested in the smart energy management features. I nodded, thinking about how my family still believed I played around with computers for a living. The resort's technology was years ahead of anything else in the industry, all powered by the company they'd dismissed as my hobby. Back in my private office suite at the resort, I reviewed the guest list for Saturday's soft opening. In addition to my family and the Petersons, we would be hosting several tech industry CEOs, 3 travel magazine editors, and a handful of social media influencers. The contrast between my family's expected casual cabin weekend and the actual event would be striking. I pulled up the security camera feeds one last time before heading back to the city. The resort was quiet now, but in less than 48 hours it would be full of life. And my family would finally understand exactly what their struggling younger son had been up to all these years. As Thomas drove me back down the mountain, I thought about the journey that had led to this moment. Every dismissive comment, every condescending piece of advice, every family dinner where they talked about their successful careers while patronizing my choices. It had all fueled my determination to succeed on my own terms. My phone buzzed with one final message from Amanda. "Don't worry if you can't make it this weekend, little brother. We know how busy you are with your computer stuff." I smiled and put the phone away without responding. Saturday couldn't come soon enough. Saturday morning arrived with perfect mountain weather. I watched through the security feeds as 3 cars wound their way up the old dirt road entrance, only to find it blocked by an elegant gate with Crown Valley Luxury Resort and Spa written in gleaming letters. Amanda's red SUV was in the lead, followed by our parents' sedan and the Petersons' minivan. I switched camera views to get a closer look at their reactions. Right on cue, my phone started ringing. "Michael, there's some resort blocking the road to your cabin." Amanda's voice was pitched high with annoyance. "And there's no dirt road anymore." "Really?" I kept my voice casual. "That's strange. Why don't you follow the new road up to the main entrance? Someone there will help you." "Main entrance?" "Michael, what's going on?" "We drove 3 hours to turn. Just follow the signs, Amanda. I'll see you soon." I ended the call and switched to the entrance camera feed. The 3 cars reluctantly followed the paved switchback road, finally pulling up under the impressive porte cochere. The reception was in full swing when my family reappeared, now properly dressed in clothes that my personal shopper had delivered to their suites. Mom wore an elegant blue dress that actually suited her, while Amanda had chosen a black cocktail dress that helped her blend in with the other VIP guests. Dad looked uncomfortable but distinguished in his new suit. I watched them navigate the crowd, noting how they flinched each time someone important approached them with, "Oh, you're Michael Anderson's family, we've heard so much about you." The irony wasn't lost on anyone. These business leaders and tech innovators treating my family with deference, while just hours ago they'd been planning to raid my mini fridge and sleep in sleeping bags on my cabin floor. "Your family seems a bit overwhelmed," David observed, appearing at my elbow with a champagne flute. "They'll adjust," I replied, taking the glass. "How are the Petersons doing?" "Mrs. Peterson is currently explaining to everyone who'll listen how she always knew you had potential. The daughters are live streaming from the spa." I smiled. "And the media, loving every minute. The Forbes reporter is particularly interested in the local boy makes good angle. She's requesting a private interview. Schedule it for next week. Right now I need to have a conversation with my family." I made my way through the crowd toward the private dining room I'd reserved. As I passed, I caught snippets of my family's conversations with other guests. "Taught him everything he knows about business," Dad was saying to a group of investors who exchanged knowing looks. "Always supported his dreams," Mom insisted to a tech journalist, who was clearly trying not to smirk. "Practically grew up together," Amanda was explaining to a famous venture capitalist, conveniently forgetting years of mockery. I approached them individually, quietly informing each to meet me in the private dining room in 10 minutes. The Petersons tried to follow, but David smoothly intercepted them with an offer of a private spa tour. When my family assembled in the dining room, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the sunset painted the mountains in brilliant oranges and purples, a million-dollar view that none of them seemed to notice. So I began, settling into my chair at the head of the table. "I believe we have some things to discuss." "Michael," Mom started, her voice trembling. "We had no idea." Clearly I interrupted. "That was rather the point. Why didn't you tell us?" Amanda demanded, but her usual aggressive tone was muted. "All these years you let us think." "Let you think what, Amanda? That I was a failure, that I was wasting my life, that I needed your constant advice and criticism." "We were trying to help," Dad protested weakly. "Were you?" I leaned forward. Was it helpful when you told everyone at Christmas dinner 2 years ago that I was still playing with computers while Amanda had a real career in middle management? Amanda had the grace to look embarrassed. Or when you, I turned to Mom, told the entire family not to invest in my little computer projects because it would never amount to anything. We were worried about you, Mom whispered. No, I corrected. You were embarrassed by me. There's a difference. The silence that followed was deafening. Through the windows I could see the resort's lights beginning to twinkle on as darkness fell. Summit Technologies is now worth $4.2 billion, I continued calmly. This resort alone is worth nearly $500 million. I employ over 3,000 people, and our technology is used in smart buildings across the globe. We're proud of you, son, Dad tried. Now you are, I agreed. But I didn't build all this to make you proud. I built it because it was my vision, my dream. The same dream you all mocked. Amanda shifted in her seat. About this morning, the text about the cabin. You mean when you decided to invite yourselves and the Petersons to my property without asking? When you assumed you could just take over my space because in your minds I was still the family failure? We didn't mean, you never mean it, Amanda. None of you do, but you do it anyway. The constant judgment, the subtle digs, the assumption that you know better than me. I stood and walked to the window, watching the resort come alive with evening activity. Every suite in this resort has a waiting list months long. CEOs and celebrities have been begging for invitations to this opening. But you thought you could just text me about using my cabin like it was a cheap timeshare. We're sorry, Mom said softly, and for the first time I heard genuine remorse in her voice. I turned back to face them. I know you are, now, but I didn't invite you here for an apology. Then why did you? Dad asked. Because it's time for a new chapter. I'm tired of hiding my success, tired of playing the role you assigned me. From now on we're going to have a different kind of relationship. What kind? Amanda asked cautiously. An honest one, where you see me for who I am, not who you assumed I would be. Where you treat me with the same respect you give to other successful people. Where you stop trying to fix my life and accept that I might actually know what I'm doing. The door opened and David appeared. Mr. Anderson, the governor has arrived for the dinner. Thank you, David. Please show my family to their table in the main ballroom. I'll join them shortly. As they stood to leave, I added one final thought. By the way, the cabin you were planning to crash in, it's now the presidential suite. The Queen of Denmark is staying there next month. I watched them file out, their postures a mix of chastened and shell-shocked. Through the window I could see the main ballroom filling with influential guests, cameras flashing as the governor arrived. My phone buzzed, a text from Amanda. I really am sorry, little brother. Or should I say Mr. Anderson? For the first time that day, I smiled genuinely. Maybe there was hope for them after all. The grand opening weekend concluded with a Sunday brunch that Forbes would later describe as redefining mountain luxury. I watched my family navigate the event with newfound awareness, finally seeing me, and themselves, clearly. Amanda approached me as I stood on the main terrace, overlooking the valley. She'd lost her usual commanding presence, replaced by something more genuine. Your staff gave us a tour of the tech center this morning, she said, joining me at the railing. That AI system you developed. It's incredible. Thanks, I replied simply. You know what made me feel worst about everything? She didn't wait for my response. When your chief engineer told us how you personally coded the original prototype in your apartment, during those months we all said you were avoiding real work. Below us guests were enjoying morning yoga on the lawn, while others departed in luxury vehicles. The Petersons had left early, Mrs. Peterson oddly quiet after spending an evening watching her social circle fawn over her formerly disappointing neighbor. I have something for you, I said, handing Amanda an envelope. She opened it, finding a check that made her eyes widen. Michael, what is this for? Your daughter's college fund, the one you've been worried about. I can't accept this. Yes, you can, because that's what family does. They help each other, not by forcing opinions or taking over their space, but by supporting their dreams and needs. Tears formed in her eyes. We really messed up, didn't we? Yes, I agreed, but that was the old chapter. Mom and Dad joined us on the terrace. Dad had lost his bluster from yesterday, when he'd tried to take credit for my success. Mom had been crying on and off since last night's dinner. Son, Dad began. We've been talking about everything, about how we treated you, how we never saw. I know, Dad, I interrupted gently. But I meant what I said about a new chapter. I don't want apologies anymore. I want change. Tell us how, Mom said quietly. I turned to face them fully. First, no more surprise, visits or assumptions about my property or time. You call and ask, like you would with any other successful person you know. They nodded. Second, the family dynamics need to change. No more little brother, who needs guidance. I'm a businessman who built a $1 billion company. That's not arrogance. It's fact. Of course, Amanda agreed quickly. Finally, I continued. I want real relationships with you all, not based on money or success, but on mutual respect. Can you do that? They exchanged looks before nodding again. Good, because I've arranged something. I handed them each another envelope. Monthly family dinners, starting next week, at the resort's private dining room. We're going to rebuild our relationships properly this time. Mom opened her envelope, finding the permanent dinner reservation card. Every month, unless I'm traveling. And yes, you can bring the kids and James. But you call first, you respect boundaries, and you check the attitude at the door. We will, Dad promised, his voice thick with emotion. I checked my watch. My helicopter's arriving soon. I have a board meeting in the city. A helicopter, Amanda repeated faintly, as if still adjusting to the reality of who I was. David will help you check out. Your cars have been detailed and serviced. Consider it a parting gift. As if on cue, the distinctive sound of rotor blades approached. On the helipad below, staff began their landing protocols. One more thing, I added. That cabin you all laughed at me for buying. It changed my life. Remember that next time you're tempted to judge someone's dreams. The helicopter landed as my family hugged me goodbye. Real hugs this time, not the perfunctory ones from our past interactions. As I walked toward the helipad, I heard Amanda call out, Michael, thank you for everything. I turned back one last time. See you next month. Don't forget to call first. From the helicopter, I watched them grow smaller on the terrace. Below, Crown Valley Resort and Spa sparkled in the morning sun, a testament to believing in yourself when no one else would. My phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. Proud to be your sister, even if you don't need my advice anymore. I smiled, finally hearing what I'd always wanted from my family, not their pride in my success, but their acceptance of who I was. The helicopter lifted off, carrying me back to the empire I'd built. Behind me, the resort stood as a monument to perseverance, and ahead lay a future where my family would finally see me for who I'd become, not despite their doubts, but because of them. The end.